Welcome back. I'm David, and today we're going deep. We're looking under the hood at the algorithms that, well, basically run your digital life. They decide what you see, what you click, and maybe even how you think. I'm joined by Sophia, who's going to help us untangle all of this.
It's great to be here. Yeah, we're looking at these systems that are just designed to grab your attention and hold it, and how governments around the world are now trying to force them open.
Welcome, everyone, to TechDaily.ai. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, contact info@techdaily.ai to get started today. Okay, so let's just jump right in. We hear all these terms thrown around: echo chambers, filter, bubbles. Before we get into the tech, can you just lay out the core problems we're really talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, they all kind of get mixed together, but they're distinct. First, you have what's called algorithmic radicalization. This is the idea that the algorithm itself, just by trying to keep you engaged, pushes you toward more and more extreme content over time.
So the system's main goal engagement is actually the problem.
Exactly. And that leads to filter bubbles. That's when the platform learns what you like so well that it basically stops showing you anything that might challenge your views. It's all about keeping you comfortable and scrolling.
And that bubble creates the echo chamber.
Right. That's the end result. It's a closed system where, a group just reinforces its own beliefs. Misinformation can spread like wildfire in those environments.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Well,
The algorithm builds the bubble creates the chamber, and that's where radicalization can happen.
and it all starts with just too much information. We have to remember why these algorithms exist in the first place. There was this thinker, Herb Simon, who pointed this out way back in 1971. He said, a wealth of information creates a poverty of something else.
Attention.
Attention, exactly. There's just too much content for any person to sift through. So algorithms aren't just a choice, they're essential.
Okay, if we need them, how do they actually choose what to show us? Is it the same basic recipe everywhere?
Not at all. There are really two main philosophies. The first is a global ranking. Think of platforms like Reddit or Hacker News. It's mostly based on total upvotes and downvotes, maybe with some math to, keep things fresh.
Right, that seems pretty straightforward. Democratic, almost.
It is. But the big players, Facebook, TikTok, the ones everyone's worried about, they use something far more complex. Personalized rankings. It's this whole machine learning process. Basically 4 steps: featurize, predict, calculate objective, and then rank.
Okay, let's start with that first one, featurize. That sounds like just collecting data, right? We know they see our posts and likes, but how deep does it really go?
Oh, it's astonishingly deep. It's not just the data you give them. It's also your device information, your phone model, your location if you've given it access to your photos.
Okay.
Then there's data from other users. Who tags you? Who follows you? Even when someone searches for you.
Wow.
And this is the big third-party data from cookies, from other websites you visit. All of that gets pulled in and turned into features.
So it's not just that I like dogs, it's way more specific.
Far more specific. They might calculate something like tie strength, how often you interact with a specific friend, or even the percentage of haha reactions a post gets. It's incredibly granular.
Okay, so they have all this data to predict what I'll do. Click, comment, share, whatever. So after all that, what is the algorithm actually trying to maximize? What's the goal?
Well, the goal is engagement, but it's a very specific kind. It's monetizable behaviors. And they assign points. Look at Facebook. They optimize for what they call meaningful social interactions. A simple like that gets you maybe 1 point, but a comment, that signals you're really invested. That scores between 15 and 20 points.
20 points, that's a massive difference. They're literally rewarding friction and argument over just, quiet enjoyment.
Precisely. They want activity. It's the same on X, formerly Twitter. When they open sourced their algorithm, we saw the same thing. Getting a reply is worth 27 points. But get this, the algorithm predicting that the author will reply back to your reply, that's worth 75 points.
75? Why is that so valuable?
Because it creates a loop. A self-sustaining conversation. That's the jackpot. It guarantees you'll both spend more time on the platform.
And what about negative feedback?
Huge penalties. Huge EE. Predicting you'll click not interested is a Zen of a 74-point hit. Predicting you'll report the content, that's a penalty of minus 369 points.
Whoa. So the entire system is just obsessively designed to avoid anything that stops the scroll.
Absolutely. And when that's your only goal, content quality, It just isn't a priority.
And that's where misinformation comes in.
It's a direct consequence. Research has shown again and again that falsehoods just spread faster. On Twitter, they're 70% more likely to be retweeted than the truth.
It sounds like the algorithm isn't biased toward hate, exactly, but it's biased toward anything that's incendiary, because that's what scores points.
You've nailed it. We even know this from Facebook's own internal documents. A memo came out that basically said, the more incendiary the material, the more it keeps users engaged, the more it is boosted by the algorithm.
It's working exactly as designed, but the outcome is a disaster.
It can be.
Let's talk about some specific examples. On YouTube, its recommendation engine is responsible for something like 70% of what people watch. Research has found that just having radical keywords in a video's title made it more likely to be recommended as extremist content.
Yes, although there is a bit of nuance there. Other studies have come to different conclusions, suggesting the algorithm doesn't really push people toward far-right content unless they're already sort of looking for it. So the question is it creating the interest or just serving it?
That ambiguity seems to disappear when you look at TikTok, though. The link to real-world violence there is much clearer.
It is chillingly clear. In Austria, just last year, authorities stopped a plot against an LGBTQ+ parade. The teens involved were radicalized on TikTok.
And it happened again, right?
Yes, this year. More arrests, this time for a planned attack at a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna. And again, the trail led straight back to online radicalization on that platform.
The speed of it is terrifying. It makes this kind of lone wolf radicalization so much more efficient.
Which brings us to a whole other level of risk. This isn't just about individual users anymore. It's about national security.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The whole TikTok controversy. What is the actual intelligence threat here? It's more than just data privacy, isn't it?
It's way beyond privacy. It's about something called revealed preferences. TikTok's algorithm is so good, so fast. It learns the American population's collective psyche on a massive scale. Your political triggers, what you buy, what you believe. It learns all of this just by watching tiny micro decisions like how long you pause on a video.
And that understanding of an entire population.
Yeah.
That's strategic intelligence.
It's the ultimate strategic intelligence.
Yeah.
It allows an adversary to design incredibly effective propaganda. And they don't even have to deploy it on TikTok. They can use that knowledge on other platforms, in mainstream media. They know exactly which buttons to push to influence public opinion.
And we know this data isn't secure. ByteDance, the parent company, has already shared algorithm details with the Chinese government.
Exactly. And even if they tried to build a firewall, like with Project Texas, it's probably not enough. Machine learning experts have shown you can basically steal a model just by asking it enough hypothetical questions. Like, if you ask a chef enough about their client's favorite foods, you can eventually figure out their secret recipe without ever seeing it.
So when the U.S. tries to regulate this, it just hits a brick wall. We saw that with the big Supreme Court case, Gonzalez v. Google.
We did. The family in that case argued that when YouTube's algorithm recommended ISIS videos, it was no longer just a neutral host. It was actively participating, so it shouldn't be protected by Section 230.
And everyone thought that would be a landmark ruling. What happened?
Well, it was a huge letdown for reformers. The court basically dodged the question. They kicked the can down the road, and the legal shield for these black box algorithms stayed firmly in place.
And there's an even bigger problem in the U.S., right? A constitutional one.
Right. The Supreme Court has ruled that an algorithm, the way it selects and presents content, is a form of protected free speech. That makes it incredibly difficult to legislate viewpoint neutrality here.
So if you can't regulate the algorithm directly, what's left?
Transparency. That's where the global focus has shifted. If you can't fix the engine, at least you can demand to see the blueprints.
The European Union's Digital Services Act, the DSA, is the biggest example of that. What does it actually force these platforms to do?
It's a huge deal. It forces the biggest platforms to conduct these massive risk assessments of their recommender systems. And for users, it means they have to provide meaningful information about why you're seeing certain ads or content.
And they're collecting data on content moderation, too.
A massive amount. They created a public database. By late 2023, it already had over 600 million entries detailing content removals and whether a bot was involved in the decision.
Germany was even ahead of the EU on this.
They were. They passed their own laws requiring platforms to disclose their main ranking criteria and, what their optimization goals are.
But does it work? Do people actually see this information?
That's the problem. A German study found that over 80% of users want this transparency. But in reality, very few could actually find the information. Only 16% on Google and a tiny 4% on Instagram. The intent is there, but the execution is lacking.
So to pull this all together, we have these essential algorithms that are also, by design, creating these really severe social consequences. And governments are trying to fight back, mostly by demanding transparency because regulating the tech itself is so hard.
Right. But there's one last really important wrinkle here. We've been talking about the algorithm's fault in creating echo chambers. But some research suggests the biggest reason you don't see diverse content isn't the algorithm. It's something called homophily.
Which is?
It's us.
Yeah.
It's our natural human tendency to choose to follow and befriend people who already think like us. We bring our own bias to the platform.
That really complicates the picture, doesn't it? If we're building our own bubbles, how much can we blame the algorithm for? Yeah. There was this fascinating experiment where they switched thousands of users from a personalized feed to a simple chronological one. People spent less time on the platform and they saw more political content. But here's the kicker. It had zero impact on political polarization.
Exactly. And that leaves us with the real question, doesn't it? If changing the algorithm doesn't fix polarization, what does that say about our own choices? How much of this division is baked into our social fabric? And can any tech solution, truly fix a human problem?
A fundamental question to think about the next time you're scrolling. Thank you for joining us.